Hello, I am Austin Buckingham. I am an artist member at Gallery Route 1. I am introducing my exhibition, which is titled Art and Architecture, the Elemental. Several years ago, I began a deep dive into a subject, and that subject was World War I and World War II. I realized that I didn't understand what these wars were about, something that was so monumental and traumatic for the globe. And I started reading, and as I was reading, I kept going down this rabbit hole and that rabbit hole. And then I began to think about, well, how do the world wars fit into the history and the technological innovations that emerged out of the 19th century. In the 19th century, specifically the latter part of the 19th century, is known as the Industrial Age. That Industrial Age continued through the World Wars and into the 20th century. The Industrial Age had this precipitating effect. It created mass urbanization, mass communication. Women got the vote, women began working, and there was, at the close of the World Wars, there was like a traumatic response by all of the countries and really by the globe. And that traumatic response was manifested in arts and architecture, in culture, in music, and in literature. So I'm looking specifically at architecture through the lens of what is known as brutalist architecture. One of the things that I thought about as I continued with this exhibition is how history is encoded in the buildings that we create. And the structures and the institutions that we create are a reflection of culture, social movements, and we are trying to explain that in a way by virtue of the structures that we build. So I thought about that history is written on architecture. Architecture is enduring, and whenever you look at a piece of architecture, you can think about where did that architecture emerge and what is its place in history. So in this piece, I am writing on the buildings, writing on the structures, the architecture that represent the post-World War II era. The reason why there was this change in architecture and culture and societal movements is because after the trauma of World War I and World War II, there was a large push and urge to really dispense with tradition, that whatever had happened in the past wasn't working. There was a new modern viewpoint that was pursued, and that modern viewpoint came out in music. It was a fragmented perspective, the idea that traditions didn't serve us very well, and those need to be dispensed with, and a new modern movement was born as a result. Also, because of the Industrial Age, there were new materials, and those materials were iron and glass and concrete. Concrete and iron and glass really allowed a new way of constructing structures that are enduring and towering, and in some cases imposing. So throughout this exhibition, as I worked on the artworks, I thought about architectural structures and how I can translate architectural structures into artworks. As I continued my investigation of artists that were important at the time, I found out that many artists were also architects, and similarly, architects frequently turned to artists of the time, to find inspiration for their architectural works. And I utilized these ideas as I proceeded with the work. This what's called a polytich six panel series. These are the first works that I created for the exhibition, and you can see that it's more of a literal translation of structure with the apparent reference to architecture. Again, I am pursuing the idea of writing on the architecture, and thus these mark makings that are on each of the panels. I found 4 quotes from various architects that I had printed out and put onto the wall as a way of kind of centering your thinking about the artwork, and that it is a representation of culture and the spirit of the time in which that particular structure was created. And again, I'm really focusing on modern architecture of what's called deconstructivist architecture and brutalist architecture. These pieces right here, when I initially started working on the exhibition, I thought I would do kind of basically a black themed exhibition, but I didn't really stay in that lane for long. But I did do some exploration of how to create a feeling of rust. And so these works are using copper and silver. You also use mineral spirits to dissolve the ink to create a textural effect that looks like it's weathered. These final pieces are 3 sculptures that I felt compelled to create for the exhibition. Brutalist architecture comes from the French word béton brut, and béton brut means raw concrete. One of the ideas in the post-World War II era and looking at architecture was what's called truth of materials, and that means, in the case of concrete, is showing the raw concrete its texture, its color, and again with pared down shapes. That means no ornamentation. Concrete, just by looking at it, you can feel its mass and its gravity and its weight. And I wanted to convey that idea with these particular concrete sculptures, and I felt like the exhibition wasn't complete without presenting these particular works. Thank you very much for coming to view the exhibition, and it's always better to see the exhibition in person, and we invite you and encourage you to come to Gallery Route 1 Thursday through Monday, 11 to 5. Thanks so much.
Hi, I'm Mary Mountcastle Eubank, and this is my small show. It's called Sometimes a Book. Also, I am a founding member of Gallery Route 1 and have been involved over the many 40-some years of its existence. This show came about, I guess, because I've long been interested in the interspace between nature and culture and how those two basic elements affect one another, work together, not work together, etc. And this piece, it happened here, is a kind of what was left of a book about an environmental event. And we're all familiar with those because of the news, or we live through them, like hurricanes or slides or you name it, whatever the earth can give us. And people, can be profoundly affected, of course, as we know, by these. In one way or another, either they maybe can lose their houses or where they live, or they can be hurt or whatever. Anyway, we all know about that. These books, the rest of the work is pretty much about what is found after a natural event of some kind and recovered. I've made books for years and years. I've always loved books from early childhood. And well, most of my work, the big paintings and so forth, are about nature. These are mostly about books, and I have many more of them. I would be happy to answer any questions that people might have, and I don't know what more to say.
Well, I'm going to say that this is a very special show and that people should come and see it in person.
Thank you, Shelley.